We're ready.
Hello everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful September day, and let's welcome Lisa Garetta here to speak on helmet education and safety awareness. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you for coming to our seminar today. We are going to talk about helmet safety for equestrians, and because I tend to talk a long time, I'm going to set my timer so I shut up. Everyone wears a helmet every ride, every time. Then part of our work is already done, because the safest helmet is totally useless if you do not put it on your head. This little quote here: any player in any sport can sustain a head injury with the very best head protection. A helmet, and this is something that is often a confusion when you are buying your first helmet, a helmet does not mean you will never have an injury. The job of the helmet is to reduce the severity of the injury. So you might end up with a mild concussion, but the difference between wearing the helmet and not is what oftentimes keeps you out of the emergency room, or worse. Now let's see, I have to do this every time now, I think. There we go.
Is VT in that slide Vermont, University of Vermont?
The VT is Virginia Tech.
Oh, okay.
Virginia Tech has done 2 helmet rating systems for different types of falls, which has nothing to do with the actual certification of helmets, and we'll go into that. But regardless of your discipline, or if you are a trail rider, a casual rider, I want to go on a trip on a dude ranch because I've always wanted to do that, the helmet that you wear is still an important aspect of safety, regardless of what you are doing. This quality control, there are 4 recognized international certifications for equestrian helmet safety, and the equestrian helmet safety is an important aspect because there are all kinds of safety helmets, but they are all geared to the specific sport in which you are participating. I'll do that in the wrong direction at some point. So the worldwide standards, what does that mean? There's a European standard, a British standard, those are kite marks. What this determines is, within the manufacturer, the specific tests that they are doing to prove the safety worthiness of their helmets. There are helmets that are a drop of a helmet on a flat impact, a sharp edge, a spike like a stud in a horseshoe, a direct drop in, and also a crush test. So each of the safety standards have the option of what they are testing in their helmet. And the most specific is the Snell Foundation, that is its own safety standard. Those are mostly seen in racing helmets and other sports, but for equestrian helmets it's almost all racing standards. Now, how does a helmet work? When you fall, you have separate stages of your fall. First, before the impact, you have the outside of the helmet. Then you have the inside liner of the helmet. Then you have your actual head. Then within your head, you have your brain. The safety standard that all helmets are tested to are designed to reduce the energy of the fall and the impact and the severity of the impact on your head. So the helmets that we offer here, all of our helmets are certified safety helmets. Some of them are, the basis of our standard in this country is called ASTM-SEI. That's the American Society for Testing Materials and the Scientific Equipment Institute, that have set the standards for what is an approved helmet in this country. Then additionally, as the world market has opened up, we now also allow some additional European standards, which is ICE or kite mark, but all of our helmets will have a minimum of one of these standards. How do the tests work? When they say it has an impact test, that means that they're putting, now this particular one is from the Virginia Tech studies, And I just pulled 2 of their videos to show how much. I mean, that is what basically happens to your head when you fall off a horse. And that's the second one. So, in falls from horses, you can have slow drops. You can have rotational falls, and if you have ridden for any length of time, you know that you can also have the serious ejection from the saddle. The serious injection from the saddle is going to require a little bit different material strength than the one that has the slow fall, which is the basis of the 2 studies that Virginia Tech has done. Some of the companies, Cask for example, have their own set of standards and their own internal testing that they do before they even get to these standards. And once a helmet has met the standard, it's not, okay, we've signed off and you're done now. With all helmet manufacturers, they periodically go in and just pull one off the line and make sure that its materials are still up to snuff and that it meets the certification. Typically when that happens, it's something in the manufacture of the foam that was a little off. They'll pull that entire lot off, and it has to come back in before it is again approved for sale. I get a lot of questions about MIPS and the MIPS safety standard. MIPS is not a standard in itself, but it is a feature of a helmet that can add additional protection, particularly in rotational fall. MIPS stands for Multi-Directional Impact Protection System. It does its best work in rotational falls because there is more movement of the skull. And the purpose of MIPS is to add a thin layer inside the helmet that in the last phase, as your brain is making contact with the inside of the helmet, it adds a little bit of a slip, so it's not quite such a sharp impact for the skull and brain. And within that system, no MIPS, this is more impact directed to the brain, and with MIPS, it's designed to mitigate that a little bit by slowing and allowing a little bit of movement. So there are helmets that have MIPS, and there are helmets that do not have MIPS. The MIPS itself is not part of a safety standard. But for certain kinds of falls, particularly for eventing, the MIPS system was designed originally for other sports like extreme skiing, snowboarding, skiing, where there are a lot of huge, big falls involving snow. That was the start of it, and it was more recently adapted into the equestrian market. It does not change the fit of your helmet because it is a very thin layer, so that it does not change the size and it does not change the fit. All of the helmets that has a very distinctive yellow color, a helmet that has a MIPS liner, if the liner that is exchangeable or is part of the sizing and it pulls out, you'll see the MIPS layer underneath, and it's connected to the helmet and it has a very small slippage, but for the brain it's a big slippage. Brands that we carry that have these, TraumaVoid is one. The TraumaVoid links, all of their helmets are MIPS. 1K has a model, Tipperary has 3 models, Charles Owen has a couple models now, and Troxel all have helmets that offer MIPS for people who want that kind of a helmet. Moved on here. So, should you wear a helmet if you're not showing and helmets are not required? Yes. Why? Because the safety aspect of a helmet is always important. Everyone comes in that does not wear a helmet and tells me, oh, I just trail ride, I'm a Western rider, so we're not falling. Our horses don't fall. We don't fall off our horses. That's my favorite. I wish that were true. But most of the riding injuries happen not when you would expect them to happen. They're not when you're jumping a huge fence or jumping cross country or doing banks. The majority of injuries actually happen at very slow speeds. And for a while, riding, equestrian sports, were #1 in traumatic brain injury visits to the emergency room. We are fortunately no longer number one, but we're still in the top five when compared with other contact sports. Many of the injuries that are still showing up in emergency rooms are because people were not wearing helmets. However, statistics show that nearly half of the riders who continue to ride for any length of time will at some point in their life suffer a concussion from a riding injury. Sometimes it's not even when you're on horse. Those of you that have horses, that are around horses all the time, know that you can get a pretty good impact to your head accidentally, or a knee, or a horse that jumps sideways. There are all sorts of ways that you can, unfortunately, have enough of an impact in your head that it can cause a concussion. So, falls are funny, but they're not, especially as you age. But when you're a child and your head and your bones are still in their formative stage, you can still do quite a bit of damage. Just because you're under 30 does not mean that you are impervious to injury. A person with a severe brain injury may need to be hospitalized for a significant length of time. It affects thinking, memory, coordination, ability to learn and remember, speech, emotions. All of these can have life-altering effects when you have a fall, and you can reduce them with wearing a helmet. I personally am okay with the not being able to do household chores, but so what are signs of a concussion? This is very important if you have friends or children or riding clubs or stables, to recognize the symptoms of a concussion. And you don't always know right away. If somebody falls and gets up, that's usually problem number one. They need to be evaluated to make sure that you're not dealing with a brain injury. They can appear dazed. They might not know what day it is. They might be, a loss of consciousness is of course significant. Ringing in your ears that you don't normally have can be a symptom of a concussion. Nausea, confusion as to where they are, what happened. Most people, when they fall off, the first question they ask is, "How is my horse?" I think it's our universal reaction. Head and neck pain, drowsiness or fatigue, sensitivity to light, all of those are signs of a concussion. And if someone in your care or area has a fall, these are the things that you need to be aware of to help them not have a more severe injury than they might have. And I can, as a horse show official, I had a competitor who had a fall, who got right up, said she was fine, got back on, rode her test, went into the secretary's office, added a class, spoke to people in the barn. Everybody thought she was fine. The next day, she had absolutely no memory of the fall, talking to the EMT, adding the class, talking to the people in the barn. Nothing. It was a total blank. Later, I found out that not only did she have a concussion there, obviously, although she passed all the original concussion protocol with EMT, she has, over the course of her riding career, had several severe concussions, a couple of them including hospitalization. Totally unknown to me as the official, totally unknown to the EMT who went through the whole protocol. So you have to be very careful when you are talking to somebody, and ideally, if you did not see it yourself, but you're there now on site trying to help this person, to see if anybody else saw it so that you know what happened. But concussions can be very funky things. If you suspect somebody has had a concussion, there are 4 things. Recognize the signs and symptoms that we just showed you on the other slide. Don't let the injured person get back on their horse. When I was a kid and you fell off, the first thing you do, you got to get back on. I'm still here, so apparently that worked. But it's not always the first thing that you should do. Maybe someone should get back on, but it might not be the person who fell off. Concussions and symptoms can be very short term or very long term, and you really need to have a medical professional make the evaluation before that person, if you are an instructor or a parent, they really need to give themselves time to come back and not just jump back on and get right in. I've learned that over the years, particularly with horse shows. So how long will my helmet last? Indefinitely? Oh no, that would be nice. Number one, helmets in the equestrian sports are designed to be single impact, which means if you have a fall and hit your head, the helmet should be replaced. In the best of circumstances, helmet manufacturers say from the time the helmet goes into service, which means it leaves the store in its nice box in its controlled environment and goes out into real life with horses, which means it's hot, it's cold, it's damp. The degradation of the lining inside the helmet that actually is what is providing the majority of the force reduction starts to degrade. And there are several things that we do that can enhance that degradation that we don't want to do, which I'll get to in a moment. But 4 to 5 years from the time the helmet goes into service, it should be replaced, even if you do not have an impact fall. Factors in premature aging. If you leave your helmet in the trunk of your car 365 days a year, it's too much of a temperature extreme. If it is in your tack room that's right next to the wash rack and your tack tends to mold, it's probably not a great place to store your helmet. Using harsh chemicals. Oh, my helmet stinks, I'll spray it out with Lysol. Well, it might improve the odor, but the chemicals in the Lysol also contribute to the speed of the degradation of the little air bubbles in the foam of the helmet. So that should not be used. Rough handling it, tossing it into your tack trunk. My favorite, cleaning it by putting it in the dishwasher cycle. Not good. Not good. And remember that you may have damage to your helmet that you don't see from the outside. You can have the plastic shell and it can survive, but inside you are getting fissures in the foam, and depending upon the outside material of your helmet and the inside material of the helmet, it's easy to have something happen inside that you do not see. So if you have a fall where there is evidence of impact of your head against the arena wall, the tree, the ground, it should be replaced. Side note, most manufacturers have a replacement policy for helmets, at least in the first 2 years that you buy them, which is why they recommend, number one, registering your helmet so that the warranty kicks in, or at least keeping a copy of your receipt, because they have fairly generous replacement policies. Number one, they want you to get another helmet. Number two, they want you to get another helmet that's from them. So they have pretty good discount programs in the first year and the second year, and that's kind of a universal standard for the industry. How should an equestrian helmet fit? I have a lot of people who are just starting out with a lesson program, and they say, well, I have a snowboarding helmet, I have a skateboarding helmet, I have a bicycle helmet, those all work. Well, and it's certified. Well, it's certified for its sport. So it reflects the kinds of falls and injuries that you have in that sport, which is why a biking helmet is not certified as an equestrian safety helmet. They fit differently. They fit higher. They may be more open in the back. These photos are from the CDC app called Heads Up, and it has the safety standards for all kinds of different sports. So if you're looking for a safety helmet that is specific to some other sport, you can look at that app and see what the requirements are. There are a couple of universal things in our equestrian helmet, which covers more of the head. Basically, with all helmets, you want it to fit no more than 2 fingers above the eyebrow. And when you're measuring for it, you do a straight line from that point above the elbow, above the ear, to the back of the head. Now, some people have a very pronounced bump on the back of their head, or they're very long oval, so that's the area that you put your tape measure around. An equestrian helmet should fit snugly. I like to refer to it as giving you a nice hug all the way around your head. There should be no super tight spots. There should be no gaps. If there's a gap, if it doesn't move skull when it's moving forward and back, then it's not a perfect fit. in the shape of heads. Sometimes if you have someone who is very, very long oval, you can get a long oval helmet. There are a few brands of that. And if you have a head that's, we'll call odd shaped, then the best thing to do when you are at the store and you are being fitted for a helmet is wear it around for a few minutes and make sure that your initial feeling, either that it was snug because you're not used to wearing a hat, or that it's loose, or that it's tight in one spot, does that mitigate after wearing it around for a few minutes, or is it something that you didn't think was going to bother you, and then after 3 minutes of wearing it, you think, oh, this is not going to be comfortable? Because there is no helmet that is a good buy if it makes you uncomfortable, so you are not inclined to wear it. When we are fitting helmets, I always like to start with asking a couple of questions. One, what discipline are you involved in? What do you do? Are you a pleasure rider? Are you a hunter-jumper rider? Are you a Western rider? Everyone has their sport preferences within helmets. My role as a helmet fitter is to make sure that your fit is correct. And then from that, we have a very wide variety of helmets here, and we have a huge stock of helmets here. It is very rare that I cannot find the appropriate, disciplined, comfortable, nice-looking helmet in today's market. They are really quite, when certified helmets first came out, it was kind of a big thing. All the helmets, the standard was, it was going to be a big thing. Now we're kind of into the third and fourth generation of certification of helmets, and they have made drastic improvements that really make them look nice and are safe and safer than the first ones were. So we start out measuring, again, with the soft tape. I use a tape that is inches and centimeters. If you don't have a tape at all, you can use a piece of baling twine or some other horseman's thing that you have around, and then compare it to your yardstick if you have one of those around. But I like to use a tape that's inches and centimeters on both sides. Why? Because some helmets are size small, medium, large. Some are by hat size, like 6 and 7/8. Some are by inches, like 22. And some are by a centimeter combination metric with their shell size. So this is my first one. I like a soft tape because as I'm putting that soft tape on, I can tell if your hair is really thin, if your head is long oval or round. Another important factor in a comfortable and successful helmet fitting is that the helmet is appropriate from the tip of the ear to the top of the crown of the head. Some people, I'm fairly short, some people are quite long. So that also has an impact on the brand and model of the helmet. Helmets, you see a lot of bike helmets that are on the back of the head. That is not where a riding helmet goes. A riding helmet needs to be square on your face with the brim just above the eyebrows, and it should be straight across the back. Sometimes hair can have an impact on that, and I'll get into things that you can do for hair. My policy has always been if my helmet is tight, I should get a haircut, but a lot of people have very long hair. Depending upon the discipline, they might want their hair up, which means they're going to be very familiar with hairnets, or as the manufacturers would prefer and is becoming more acceptable in many disciplines of riding, is pull it back and have it down. A dial system, which is a helmet with this is a dial system, is adjustable within the confines of a size. So it might cover 2 to 3 sizes based upon the dial. So a dial is a handy thing for sometimes when you have a lot of hair but you want to wear it down sometimes and up sometimes. If the helmet does not have that adjustment, you have additional options. One is have 2, and one is adjust what you do with your hair always down. But whatever, if you put your hair up, then that's how you should have your helmet sized when you're buying one. And if you wear your hair down, then that makes it a little easier, but that's something that you need to tell the person who's fitting you. They should ask you that question, but if they don't ask you that question, make sure that you bring with you the tools that you have to make your hair work the way you want it to work under a helmet. I want a helmet that allows for growth. That's the cousin of the I have a lot of hair and sometimes I put it up and sometimes down. Helmets are safety equipment. So, sometimes you could buy a riding shoe that's an extra size and put an insole in it. You can't really do that with your head. So if you really want to have adjustment, then you need to either have a dial system, I just mentioned, have one that has a shell with a replacement or a separate liner so that you have the shell and then you have the liner that goes in it, because when you have a shell helmet, they generally cover 2 to 3 sizes. So if you need, say, due to hair, when your hair is down, you might need the smallest size for your helmet, and when your hair is up, you might need to go up a liner or up 2 liners in size. I would say, I think I was probably a 6 7/8 helmet when I was about 12, and I'm still a 6 7/8 helmet. So depending upon the manufacturer and the shape, it might be a 7. But your head normally is not something that grows until you're 20, like your feet. We carry helmets from toddler size to the largest size that is made. But I can't put, or I won't put, a toddler in the smallest children's size helmet because I would have to pat it and pat it and pat it, at which point it's not a safety helmet anymore. Head shape and hairstyle. Long oval is sometimes tough, very round is sometimes tough. It's kind of an industry standard to come in and say, well, my friend has an X helmet, so that's what I want to get. Which is fine as long as you and your friends' heads are approximately the same size and shape. Some disciplines are very specific about the brand or style of helmet that they want. The hunter jumper is probably the most specific, although I think maybe the quarter horse is working on its way to being very specific too, which is fine. But for safety's purposes, get the helmet that fits you best. We can make some modifications to sizing with things like sizing tape, and I can take a fit that's pretty good and make it good, but I can't take a bad fit and fix it with sizing tape. That's anti-safety, so I won't do that. As I mentioned a moment ago, in what you do with your hair can make a difference. Now, this child in the pony medal is in a very popular helmet for her discipline. That's Sam Shield. So Sam Shield comes with shell sizes and it comes with liners. So we can do quite a bit as far as making that helmet. The liners have compression foam in them, so we can change the size quite a bit and we can fit the size of the shell. Manufacturers would like everybody to go this way, and that is if you have long hair, have it down. There's one jump, not this one, this is a young rider, so she's got a lot of hair. But having it back allows for a much better fit of her helmet. There was a jumper rider who I don't see quite as much now, but she had very long hair and became very popular because she would put feathers into it. I can't remember her name because they always called her the Feather Girl, and now I can't remember her actual name. But she started her own style, because everybody knew when she was on the jump course because she had a long flowing mane with feathers. The harness. A correctly fitting harness, and this again kind of goes into what kind of helmet that you purchase, because some are fixed and some are adjustable. Ideally, the harness fits so that it makes a V just below your earlobe. And the reason that we want them to fit there is it allows the helmet to be most secure and not moving on your head. If you have a really high ear or a really low ear, if the harness of your helmet is fixed and it's not comfortable, that again is going to be one of those situations where I have this really nice helmet, but I really don't want to wear it because it's uncomfortable. So better to follow the lead of what your head tells you than what fashion or your friend wear. Most of the helmets that have fixed harnesses are based upon statistics of populations and what their measurements are, and for the most part they fit, but every once in a while I have somebody who really wants a helmet, but the harness just does not fit. If it fits too far back or too far forward, physics tells us it will not be stable. It will always want to rock. And it will always want to rock at the most inopportune time, like when you are trotting and going over a fence. Again, your helmet is not safe if it rocks forward on your face or back on your neck. Now, one feature of equestrian helmets is that all of the brims are essentially breakaway. So in a helmet like this, which is a sport helmet, it's very flexible, so you know it's going to break away. Some of them actually will come off and they just are on there with a clip. But even if the helmet looks like its brim is very specifically part of the shell, it is still designed to break away. The reason for that is if you fall forward, the helmet should not come back and clip you in the back of the neck, which is very important. It's a secondary reason of why the positioning of the harness is important, because if the harness is too far back or too far forward, the helmet is always going to rock. It's a little bit like saddle fitting. If the basics of your saddle tree don't fit properly, then your saddle pads are always going to slip forward or back. Sometimes we cannot argue with physics. So your factors in looking for helmets, and this is why, although there are many helmets that are available online and not everybody has a good tack shop close to them, if it is possible, I strongly recommend going to the store and being professionally fitted for your helmet, because it is a very important part of safety in the sport. Heads can be round, normal or average, or long oval. The type of helmet that you get can have a lot of adjustment in its harness. This is a UVEX helmet, and it is the only one that has a three-way adjustment of its harness. You can make it change how it fits to the base of your ear. You can adjust the length of it so that it gives you 2 fingers under your chin so it doesn't throttle you, but at the same time it can't slip forward over your chin and come off. And this one is very unique because it can also adjust the actual depth of the shell and how it fits on your head. So this is an excellent helmet if you have issues with the depth of the crown, either very short or very long. This is a great helmet because it can change with you. What's the difference between a show helmet and a schooling helmet? Well, technically nothing. However, sometimes the show specifics for your discipline might want to lead you in one direction over the other. Show helmets, you can probably guess, tend to be pricier than a schooling helmet. Again, I went through everything is past the same safety standards, at least one, which is ASTM SEI. It's funny because people come in and they say, well, I have a nice show helmet, so I just need a cheap everyday helmet. Well, which do you spend more time doing, schooling or showing? So does it really make sense to have your nice show helmet and then, oh, just whatever will do because the barn makes me wear it? Logic tells us no. Practice tells us yes. I like to go for logic. But there really is no difference in the safety standards. I would say probably more people for schooling helmets, where their hair might be up or down, are more interested in a helmet with a dial system. The dial system is very nice because you can lefty-loosey open it and righty-tighty tighten it. I recommend when you have a dial that you open it and put it on your head and make sure that your hair is comfortable and you've gotten over that bump in the back of your head, and then snug it up, because that gives you the best and most secure fit of your helmet. Some people are very, very sensitive as far as gaps or tight spots, and that's that is a personal thing. It has something. It's like a horse that can't stand to have a bug not on it, but within 4 feet of it. Some people are very, very sensitive to how much pressure they can have on their head. Or if there is a very slight gap on the side of that bump in the back of their head, it feels like it's a 10-gallon hat that's going to come off. That is individual to you, but another vote for having your helmet professionally fitted. People who have show helmets often save their custom designs, Swarovski crystals, color that goes with their coat or boots, colors that goes with their outfit, a design on it that goes with their barrel racing persona. All of those are options and available now. That's the nice thing about helmets. Helmet manufacturers do not recommend painting your helmet a different color or putting a lot of stickers on it. That's just anything that you put on the surface can have an impact, either the glues in it or how that helmet responds to impact that was not part of their testing. So they don't really know how it is. If it's done in the manufacturing process, then they can control it. Should you wear a safety helmet in the barn? This is a question I've been getting more recently. And it is an interesting question because there are a lot of accidents that happen in the barn that you don't expect. If you are cleaning horse's stall or you're grooming and they have a fly land on them or something spooks them a little bit and that knee comes up and hits you in the head, there are a lot of accidents that happen in the barn. So many accidents happen in the barn that the American Association of Equine Practitioners recommends to its equine vets that they start wearing a helmet when they are treating horses. You would not believe the stats on the number of vets that are injured by horses that they are treating because they're focusing on one thing and the horse is focusing on something else. So much so that in the UK, one of the largest multi-practice owners of equine vets has started working with manufacturers to develop a separate helmet that is going to be made for vets, farriers, dentists, braiders. So it will be a helmet that is made for working on the ground, and it will have additions like high intensity light so that you can see what you're stitching or see what you're braiding or see the tooth that you're trying to get to. So I would anticipate, that started this year, so I would anticipate by 2027, 2028, we'll start to see those available. And if it's that important and that much of a problem for veterinarians and equine dentists, it is something to consider, especially if you are working with young horses, stallions, or you're just not sufficiently comfortable handling horses or know the horse on the ground. For children or for adults, it's something to consider. Loading horses, unloading horses, anytime you are working with them, we have to remember that number one, they weigh a lot more than we do. Number two, they are designed to be flight whenever there is some sort of a predator or something that they consider to be a predator around them. As much as they love us and recognize that we are the source of carrots and breakfast, when it comes right down to it, it's fight or flight. Their flight. So it is worth it. I believe. So, thank you very much for sitting through all this information. Does anyone have any questions? Or did anyone bring a helmet that they're not positive about the fit or think it could be a little better? I'm happy to look at them. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
My grandson had been riding at like a therapeutic riding center. He had his own helmet, but they were concerned about the helmet was like 5 years old. And there was evidently a tag inside that they were able to tell the manufacture date. And I was like, I couldn't read.
Okay, so the question was in a riding program, there was concern over the manufacturing date of a helmet. So on all helmets, if you take the liner out or if it doesn't have a liner that comes out, it will be on the inside of the helmet. It's on the box, but it's also inside the helmet, and it has the certifications. This one is ASTM and CE. And this helmet was manufactured, it does have the manufacturing date, I just have to find it. Manufactured, okay, translation required. This one's made in Germany. This one was made in 2025. So 2025, that's 3 years old. So remember that I said that the time on a helmet starts when you take it out of its pristine life, in controlled atmosphere and in its box, and starts to tick when it goes out into real life, because then it's how the helmet is stored, how wet it gets, whether you ride twice a day or twice a week and you get really sweaty and you want your helmet to not end up being smelly, so you dry it with a hairdryer or you put it on a radiator. All of those things will, as I said, start to attack the integrity of the lining inside. So as long as it is properly stored, it is not when the helmet was made, it's when the helmet goes into service. That is a common question. I agree that it's a common question. So all of helmets will have that sticker in there, but the date that it goes into service is the date. And then depending upon how much it's used, it's 3 to 5 years. I have a helmet that it's not the best fit. Fit's okay. My hair is shorter, and so I don't wear that helmet. And it's in my closet, in a box. I could probably wear that helmet when it's 15 years old, because I think I've worn it about 6 times. Most of us, when we buy a helmet, put it into service, and off it goes. Okay? Any other questions? No?